Hey, what's up? This is Kevin from Kevin's BBQ Joints, and I'm excited to bring you my interview with Ben Johnson and Craig Hoezler from Woods Chapel Barbecue in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been wanting to talk to them as soon as I saw this open a few months ago because I was curious because they were doing whole hog and they were doing brisket. I knew that they had a pit from JD at Primitive Pits, and I saw their plating, and I saw also that they had salmon on the menu, so I was just intrigued by what was going on there. Ben and his wife Jennifer, they're owners in this restaurant as well as other investors, but they also have a number of other great restaurants in the Atlanta area. We talk about that. And Craig, he grew up in Texas. He went to culinary school in Portland, and he's worked at a number of restaurants using live fire, but then he's also worked at Fox Brothers Barbecue, so he cut his chops there. It's a really cool, interesting interview. We get into the history of the location of where the restaurant is and that area itself, and the name itself is deep rooted in tradition. I just think you're going to love this. Oh, if you are just listening to this on the podcast, head over to youtube.com/Kevin's BBQ Joints, because at the end of this, there is a complete tour of the restaurant, of the pits, of the food. You're definitely going to want to check that out. And if you're watching on YouTube, stick around for the end. You're going to love that. But I can't thank both of them enough for taking the time. You're going to enjoy this. And if you're digging these, please subscribe. That way you don't miss out on anything. If you're just listening to the podcast, I'd mentioned there's a YouTube version, again, at youtube.com/Kevin's BBQ Joints. I have a website at kevinsbbqjoints.com with links to all the podcasts, all the YouTube stuff, original content, links to barbecue pop-ups in Los Angeles, links to barbecue pop-ups in Texas, and that thing is growing too. I can be found on all social media at Kevin's BBQ Joints. But in the end, thank you so much for listening. Thanks for reaching out. Let me know what you think on these. Hope you guys have a good week. Have a great weekend. If you're just listening to this before the weekend, enjoy. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
How are you guys doing today?
Doing well. Apologize for the chopping in the background.
That's okay. I love when there's real restaurant noises in the background. As long as it's not like a machine in the back doing something that's awful that because people do listen to this when they're driving and they're like, what the heck is that?
No grinding.
So how long has Woods Chapel been open?
We opened back in June of this year. So it's only been a few months. We're still getting our feet under us and adjusting to customers and the sort of demands of a new business.
How has the response been?
I think the response has been phenomenal. I think both from the number of people that have come in, as well as sort of the response to the food itself. We've had great feedback on everything. We've even got a couple of really nice reviews that have come out since we've been open. And I don't know, Craig, your experience with folks in the pits and
I mean, people really seem to like what we're doing, especially once we got the new offset pits in. I think our quality has increased tenfold.
So when you guys first started, that you didn't have those offset in house?
No,
we had an offset that wasn't drawing the way we wanted it to draw, and so it was right at open, and we decided we needed to swap it out. So we pulled it. Had folks at Primitive Pits sort of did a big favor for us and kind of rushed a job to get us the new ones. And so we were able to do our brisket on one of our other smokers, but it's just, gotten that much better now that we have the offsets that we use.
And you have two from JD at Primitive Pits. Are they 1,000 gallons?
2 500
gallons. 2 500s. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's also like a nice thing to know that they, because I've talked to JD a number of times, but it's nice to hear it from this side that he helped out in different ways. Like he helped out by getting you guys something quickly and also changed how the product is being presented.
Right. We were in a pinch. We needed, it was kind of a 911 call for us to him, and he was fantastic. We really appreciated it.
Yeah, we were cooking everything on an oiler, and we were kind of playing Tetris with how we were trying to get everything loaded and having briskets on all day. So it helped a lot with the spacing of everything, for sure.
Do you guys still have your oiler?
Oh yeah, we use it every day.
It's a nice tool to have.
Oh, it's amazing. I love an oiler.
Let's go back a bit. Craig, what's your background?
I'm originally from Texas, from Nederland, which is right outside Beaumont, Texas. Not a lot of great barbecue there growing up, but we had patillos, which I don't know if you've heard of that before.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's just juicy, greasy sausages. And then, my dad and uncle always barbecued, and then I moved to Atlanta when I was 13, went to high school in Gwinnett County, and then went to culinary school in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, wow.
Moved back to Atlanta, and a restaurant I was working at, they had a barbecue pit, and barbecue was on the menu, and that's kind of how I got started doing that. So I just from there on, every restaurant I worked at, pretty much till then, had some sort of smoked meat on the menu.
And you made sure that you were the guy that doing it.
Exactly. Yeah, I tried to weasel my way into any smokehouse job I could get. So.
Well, that's perfect. So, and how did this come about? Did you guys know each other before?
When I heard about this place, I kind of bugged our executive chef, Todd Ginsburg. I bugged him on Instagram. I'd never met him. I just hounded him on Instagram for weeks until finally he was like, cool, that's me. And I worked at the General Mirror for a little under a year, and we hadn't opened Woods yet, so I was kind of getting antsy. So Jonathan Fox from Fox Brothers reached out to me, and I went to work there for about a year. And then once Woods Chapel sort of opened up, I kind of jumped back in and started helping out here.
I remember seeing that you were working at Fox Brothers. I didn't know how that process worked. So working at Fox Brothers too, that gave you an idea of volume, because they do a pretty good volume.
Oh yeah, it's bananas how much volume they do. I mean, on the weekends they'll do 45 to 50 briskets every day. So I definitely learned a ton about producing a high quality product. A lot of it at the same time. So that helped a lot in my growth as a pit guy, pitmaster, whatever you want to call me.
It's also a good thing for you guys, but for the whole project, because it shows that there is a market for what you're putting out.
Absolutely.
Brisket isn't necessarily the go-to item in Atlanta.
Well, it's funny. I think, and maybe Fox Brothers sort of helped start this in Atlanta, is an appreciation for brisket. Mm-hmm. I grew up here in Atlanta, went to school in North Carolina, so I was always sort of barbecue is pork, mm-hmm. Beef is not barbecue, and mainly because I've never had good brisket. Mm-hmm. But once you have really good brisket, you understand why people love it so much. Mm-hmm. And so that was a revelation for me, and I'm happy to say that I'm now much more accepting and open to all barbecue than I used to be.
That's nice. See, everyone can get along. We can make this all work.
You just need to experience one another, right?
Exactly. And it's also, I think too, that a lot of people travel now more, and they've gone to Austin for some festival or for something for business, or to Dallas. And then now the barbecue is so pervasive, I think you can't say that there's a specific type that people only like now. Or there's like a few people that would be like, I don't like beef. It's kind of odd. So what's your background, Ben? You said you went to school in North Carolina.
Went to school in North Carolina, to college, and actually was a lawyer originally. Went to practice law for 10, 12 years locally in Atlanta. And then my wife, who was also a lawyer, we met in law school, she wanted to open a restaurant. So she opened our first restaurant about 16 years ago. West Egg Cafe over on the west side of town. And a few years after that, I sort of jumped and joined her after our son was a couple years old. So we had that for, 8 or 9 years, 10 years before we opened our second place.
What's that jump like to open a restaurant? Like, had you had any background at all? Jen's your wife, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
Jennifer, my wife and business partner. And there are four of us. Our chef partner, Todd Ginsburg, Shelly Sweet is another of our four partners, and then myself and my wife, Jennifer.
Okay, Jennifer.
Nobody should do it the way we did it. Anybody who comes to me for advice, I tell them don't do it the way we did it, because we had little to no, other than Jen working at the food court in the mall in high school.
Which isn't a great way to that's not a great background now, because
it's sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, mm-hmm. and we certainly were very fortunate. I think we picked a part of town that was really underserved at the time, and now it's booming over there.
That helps.
At the time, there really wasn't a lot there, and there's some pent up demand for it, and that really kept us going. And I guess one of the good things about being a lawyer is you tend to be a quick study. You have to, you get a new case in, you get a new client in, you've got to get up to speed in a hurry. And so, being sort of analytical and a quick study on things.
That makes sense.
You don't make mistakes over and over again for very long. You tend to learn pretty quickly, get your feet under you pretty quickly. And so I think that was a real benefit for us early on. And that and just the support of the community around us.
So then did you were you thinking, I want to make a restaurant group? And then what was the next restaurant you guys opened after that?
We don't have a plan. We didn't have a plan. We still have, only the basics of a plan. No, there really was no intention to create a group or do additional restaurants. It just sort of came along later on. Actually, our second restaurant is the General Muir, which is over near Emory University, and is sort of inspired by New York Jewish deli. We make our own pastrami and corned beef, make our own bagels. And originally the developer over there had approached us about opening a second West Egg. And my wife's family, or her mother, grew up in New York. My brother lives in New York. We'd go up there a lot, and we'd always go and sort of binge on Jewish deli. Just didn't have a lot of that here in Atlanta, and that's something we've always, toyed with the idea of doing. And so when the developer came to us and said, we want you to, maybe think about opening a West Egg over here. So we have this other idea, to do this New York Jewish deli-inspired restaurant. And to their credit, they thought we were kind of crazy, but they took a flyer on us, and we were, independent. We didn't have a big track record other than 8-9 years at West Egg. So when we did that, that's when we brought in partners. It's hard to sort of grow a restaurant and run a restaurant.
For sure,
so
that makes sense.
Having more people, and we had read an article with, or an interview with Todd Ginsburg, and he had mentioned that he grew up in the Northeast, and he really wanted to open a deli one day. And we knew him sort of from a couple of different avenues. But Shelley, who is our fourth partner, had worked for us early on at West Egg right out of college, became a manager there. Then she went off. She really got the restaurant bug. She went off to a big restaurant group in town and worked at several restaurants. One of them, she was the GM, and Todd was the chef at a couple of those places. They were in the same group for a little bit. And so she knew him. We knew him because his son's mother was our son's first grade teacher, and he loved her. And so we sort of knew him. So we sort of got together and got talking with him about, say you want to open a deli? We're kind of thinking of doing that. And we talked for a long time before we sort of cemented things. But that's sort of how the General Muir came to be. And so the four of us partnered up and opened that. And then it was sort of off to the races. And that was sort of an interesting, overlap because, we are doing pastrami over there. So there's a lot of similarities, differences, but similarities too, and sort of the trimming of briskets and, smoking, different degree of smoke on it and cook on it. But so it gave us some comfort.
It's not too many steps away from what you're doing now.
Right. It's a little bit different, but yeah, a little bit similar.
Like that being said, I want to get to how Woods Chapel actually happened. Do you think you'll have? And I didn't notice pastrami on the menu. Is that something that eventually you guys will weave in or not? Probably
not. There's no plan to do that. I think sort of cross our genres a little bit, and I don't think there's a present plan to do it. Not saying we wouldn't. One thing we've talked about doing is maybe trying to play with some pastramis here on the offset smokers for use over there, and really trying to develop the flavor on them that way a little bit more.
That's
what I play around with first before we serve pastrami here at Woods Chapel.
Yeah, that's true. You guys can serve items at the General Muir that are from Woods Chapel, like even brisket would probably work, because it's different. Do you have brisket just by itself, or is it more more pastrami, more of the smoked meats, smoke cured meats at the General Muir?
At the General Muir, we'll do brisket occasionally, like a dinner, like holiday dinners or catering, things like that. We'll do a brisket preparation, but the majority, 99.9% of the brisket we do is either pastrami or corned beef.
So then, how did this come about? Was that something in the back of your mind too? I'd like to, as this kind of monster grew, did you want to open a barbecue place? Is that something that you've always loved, going to barbecue places?
Before I was even in the restaurant business, what guy doesn't want to open a barbecue restaurant?
I don't want to know him.
and maybe girls too. I don't know. I can only speak for myself. I don't want to generalize, but it's some always sort of love the idea of doing it. And sort of things get in the way, and that's. But then it sort of came around full circle, and it is something that I've talked about doing. It's something that Todd Ginsburg was interested in doing. And so the timing worked, the location worked, and when we first saw the buildings down here, the roof was collapsed in here, It was an old brick building. It was, it was really a mess, but, we sort of looked at it and said, it kind of looks like a barbecue joint. So we didn't necessarily look down here with the idea that we're trying to find a place to do barbecue. Part of it was a little more organic, was, here's the space, here's an idea we've been toying around with. They sort of happened to mesh, at the right time.
Is this area that you guys are in, is it a newer, like an up-and-coming area in Atlanta? It's, from what I was reading, I couldn't tell, it seemed like there's some new developments in that area.
It's a really fascinating neighborhood. It's called Summerhill, and it is south of downtown Atlanta. It is a really old historic neighborhood. It was settled in 1865, right after the Civil War.
Wow.
And, set by formerly enslaved and a lot of immigrants. And it was really part of a really vibrant downtown residential and commercial area. Over time, it sort of deteriorated a little bit economically. When the interstates were built, they put the interstates basically right through the neighborhood. 75, 85, the connector north-south, and then I-20 east-west basically cut the neighborhood off from downtown and a lot of surrounding areas. So that was sort of the first step. And then for urban renewal plans in the 60s, they decided, let's get a stadium here and lure a Major League Baseball team down here. And here's a place that, we can bulldoze a lot of houses and build a stadium and parking lots. And so, the stadium was built, parking lot, acres and acres, just the whole neighborhood half the neighborhood was basically raised.
Wow.
Then the Olympics came in 96, and the Olympic Stadium was built. So this was actually the site of the 96 Olympics. And then it turned over to the Braves. After the Olympics were over, they tore down their old stadium and moved into the Olympic Stadium. Fast forward, the Braves, since 2016, moved up to the suburbs.
Yeah, I thought they moved.
Being downtown. And so we have this huge expanse of parking lots, this, phenomenal stadium that's not that old, and Georgia State University, which has been growing like crazy, which I believe is by enrollment the largest state or largest university in the state, has always been a very urban downtown oriented university and has done phenomenal things downtown in terms of bringing a lot of life to downtown. They bought the stadium, and so now it's their football stadium. They are partnering with developers, Carter and others, who are basically going to redevelop all of the acres and acres of parking lots that disconnect the neighborhood from downtown into mixed-use developments. But the first thing is there's this row of old storefronts here on Georgia Avenue that's right next to the stadium that have been abandoned for a long time. One of the buildings we went in had a tree growing inside the building, out the wall and up, and the tree must have been 30 or 40 years old. So
amazing.
Nothing's happened in these buildings. I think during the Olympics they used them, maybe for some VIP suite. They might have used them temporarily and then boarded them back up. And so we've got a row that used to be a really vibrant commercial row of storefronts that was abandoned. And so the first step in the development was to rehab a lot of these buildings, fill in a couple of the holes, and that's when we saw it, was when they were still boarded up and the roof was collapsed. And so it's turned into a really, so it's up and coming again. It's both historic and a lot of new activity that's coming in. So it's a really vibrant area. The longtime residents are fantastic. They've been patient through a lot of promises and a lot of disappointment. And so we're just sort of honored to be here and to be a part of the community down here.
Thank you for that little bit of history. No, that's interesting. I was curious, and from reading and things online, I'm in Los Angeles and trying to glean what's going on right there. Now I understand. It makes a lot of sense. Or is it walkable for people too? It's
really close to Grant Park, which is one of the oldest parks in town. It's a great old Victorian era neighborhood. It's basically right next door to it. Mm-hmm. It's not really super walkable from downtown. Honestly, it's a mile and a half. It's not a pleasant walk right now because it's a big, busy road built to haul cars in and out of the stadium, and it's through basically empty parking lots. But that will change over time, and that's our hope, is that it becomes a walkable, connected neighborhood again. We get a lot of foot traffic now from neighbors up and down the street. There's an ice cream store, coffee shop and bakery, a brewery, some other restaurants are in the process of opening.
That's perfect.
It's next door. So it's developing a lot of foot traffic now that it didn't have, even 4 or 5, 6 months ago.
Craig knows, it doesn't need to be walkable for barbecue. Like, that's not, people will go, they'll drive to the middle of nowhere for barbecue.
That was part of our thought was, this would be a great spot for barbecue is, we thought it might take a little ramp up time for people to find us down here, to find the neighborhood, because there hasn't been commercial development here in so long. And most people's experience with the neighborhood, if they didn't live here, is parking for Braves games. And so we thought it would take a while. We figured, people will travel for barbecue, so it will draw people
for sure.
Until we sort of get enough people living here who want this. And actually the opposite's been true, but the response has been great. Even from the start. So the ramp up, the sort of slow build that we thought we would have to contend with, really has been. We've been fortunate that it's been a pretty strong response out of the gate.
Wow. Well, let's talk about the restaurant itself. Well, really quickly, the name. The name came from what?
Right after the neighborhood was settled, and right after the Civil War, there were a couple of early churches that opened down here. One of them was named Woods Chapel. It's no longer here. It's no longer around, and it, similar with the General Mirror and some of our other places, we like names that have some meaning behind them. We wanted, sort of doing research on the history of the neighborhood and learning about it. It just sort of jumped out to us, because our focus here is entirely wood cooking. Mm-hmm. So all our meats are wood. We don't have any gas assist. And so it just sort of dovetailed nicely between the history of the neighborhood and the intention behind the cooking process. And it's also a way that, honestly, that, I like history and, sort of honor the history of the neighborhood and, something that otherwise might be forgotten as new development comes and new people come in. Just wanted to have a reminder that there were things here before.
That's important, really important.
And just try to keep that alive and have people ask about the history. We love sort of involving customers in the history of the neighborhood, the history of the name, and we want them to ask those questions, like, where did the name come from?
Yeah, and then they might delve deeper themselves outside once they leave into what this place was. I think that's important. I always felt like people, when you go to cities, things have changed so much that no one knows what it used to look like. Our downtown, like a lot of downtown, a lot of different places, like a place there could have been 7 stores there that have incomplete families. So what's on your menu? And are you guys open? You guys are open 7 days a week?
7 days a week, yeah.
Yep, 7 days a week. Lunch, dinner. I'll let Craig talk about the meats and.
Let's hear about the meats first, Craig.
Yeah, I mean we have beef brisket, whole hog. We kind of have a lot of different styles on our menu. Just because Georgia's not tied to any style of barbecue, so we have Texas style brisket. I would say like Eastern Carolina whole hog, St. Louis style pork ribs with a nice sweet glaze on top, smoked chicken, and then we have the salmon and our jalapeno Oaxaca cheese sausage.
Wow! Then you guys make that sausage from scratch?
Yes.
Are you making that sausage?
Yeah, me and the smokehouse team, we work on that sausage a lot. Yeah, because it's getting pretty popular. It's a pretty good sausage.
Well, that's a big deal to have scratch made sausage at any restaurant.
For sure, yeah. It came out of necessity. We have a lot of beef scrap in house from trimming briskets because we trim our briskets pretty aggressively. So we needed a way to kind of make that scrap into something we could sell and something that was equally as delicious as well.
I noticed that on your menu you can get plates, but then also you can order by the pound, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how did you do that with the whole hog? Are you guys cooking the whole hog on the primitive pits, or are you cooking it on
a BQ?
A BQ, grill? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think part of the idea was, as Craig said, Georgia doesn't have a sort of clearly defined style, so we felt a little license to sort of reach and treat each protein sort of the way we thought best represents it. And part of that is the cook method. So the offsets we have for the brisket, the ribs are on the oiler and sort of the chicken and turkey. But then we wanted to have that true North Carolina style whole hog. So it's a it's a cooker out of North Carolina from BQ. It works great. We got the one with the turner, so we don't have to have 4 guys over there lifting hogs and flipping them up.
That is a job. That's crazy.
That's a lifesaver.
Yeah.
But the idea was, let's do, pork the best way pork can be done. Let's do brisket the best way brisket can be done, and not try to do everything, through one type of cook.
And you're doing whole hog every day?
Just about, yeah.
That's crazy. That's amazing. There's not a lot of places. I'm creating a list of all the places that do whole hog, so it's nice to have you guys on the list.
Yeah, it definitely keeps things interesting. It's a labor of love too. I mean, we're constantly throwing logs in the burn barrel and burning down live coals and keeping those temps steady. So definitely keeps the job fun for sure.
Yeah, and it definitely it's not just, you're not just throwing something on. It's doing a whole hog. It takes dedication, and it also shows that you guys are serious about what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And now, how do you manage the 2 shifts? Do you have you have to have 2 cook shifts because of lunch and dinner, right?
Yeah. So we have someone come in very early in the morning, and they load all of our briskets on for the next day, and then they'll cook ribs and sausage and chicken for the lunch service. And then someone comes in later in the afternoon, and they'll fire more ribs, chicken for dinner, and then they'll cook the brisket and the hog that whole day. Yeah. And then those will rest overnight, and they'll get picked and served for the following day.
I'm sure it's a challenge at times, and also keeping pars and making sure that you're, that's...
Absolutely.
You got to figure out the neighborhood, and it's a brand new place and a brand new area. That's still, I'm sure, even though June seemed far away, it wasn't that long ago.
Well, the briskets, it's like the same thing we had at the General Mirror with pastrami and with bagels. It's not the kind of thing you can just whip up more. It's a 24-hour process, basically, to, the time you start it to the time you serve it, sometimes. And so, we run out of things. You got to, judging the pars is very difficult, and so people have been patient as we run out, but we get better and better at it. And, as you see the patterns and you figure out what your traffic is. And
you think that by now people would understand that that smoking meats takes a long time, but people still get upset when, how could you run out of something?
Yeah, everyone understands until it's them.
Until you've driven an hour and a half for something and you have it in your mind.
Right. They understand, but it doesn't mean they have to like it.
No, I've gotten that way. Even for a certain bagel or for something, I've driven a long ways and I'm like, I want it so badly, and then
And we don't want to disappoint people. We want to have we want to run out. We don't want to carry it over. We want to run out when that last person comes in the door, and we want them to have the last great portion, and then it's done. But it's an art to figuring that out.
And being a sit-down restaurant with a full menu and having beer, you have beer and wine?
Beer, wine, full license, yeah.
That's nice too. That's an amazing thing to have because the pairings with barbecue is perfect.
It is, and we've got a huge patio, about 120 seats out there, sort of beer garden style, picnic tables, and so now the weather's finally turned cool for us here. Just being able to have a beer out there. We're very family friendly. Got a lot of games, and so parents are here with kids, and it just it's nice to be able to get a glass of wine or a beer or a cocktail.
Oh, for sure. And then I was going to ask about the salmon, but I want to jump to capacity though. What's your inside seating capacity and your outdoors?
About 120 seats outside. We could squeeze more tables in there if we had to. Right now it's kind of spread out. Same with inside. We've got about I think it's about 120-ish seats inside. We've got a front dining room. It's got about 75 actual seats in it right now. We could fit more if we wanted to. We've got a private dining room that seats about 40 where we're actually sitting right now.
Oh, wow.
So we can do events here, neighborhood meetings.
For the holidays, that'll be great.
And then it also gives us some flex space when it's, we can open the private dining room up to normal seating if it's too hot outside for the patio or raining or too cold.
Oh,
so
that's
it just gives a little flexibility. And it's sort of a luxury. It's the first restaurant we've had a little bit extra space, a little elbow room. So we're not used to it, and so figuring out how to use it, it's been very nice, and it's a real luxury to have some extra square footage.
So if people come in, are there long waits? So there wouldn't be right now. I'm sure there could be Friday or Saturday, right?
It varies. We're counter service, so our goal is once you placed your order and sat down, got your drink, the food will come out pretty quickly. So the wait's more on the front end, whereas in a full service restaurant, you might have a wait on the front end, then have a wait as your order's taken while you wait for your food. So The line can get a little bit long sometimes, but the goal is to keep it moving as efficiently as we can while taking care of everybody, and then have the food come out fast. So that overall the wait time is not bad at all.
So you're saying counter service, like you place your order, then go sit down, kind of? Is that
correct?
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
It's not like meat market style where you're sliding your tray or okay.
No.
And I think that makes sense for a lot of restaurants to not do it that way. I think it takes a certain type of beast to do it that.
It does, and a lot of our stuff is just not as conducive to that.
Mm-hmm.
We need the kitchen line there to do some of the stuff that we're doing, tortillas and things like that. We wouldn't really be able to. It's possible, but this works really well for us.
So how did salmon come about?
Salmon's probably a General Muir sort of offshoot. We did a sort of Jewish style kippered salmon there, which is hot smoked salmon that just is done phenomenally well. People love that. It was sort of a natural to bring that over here, and it also sort of rounds out the menu. One of the the concerns of the barbecue restaurant is that sort of barbecue veto, the one person in the group who doesn't want barbecue.
That's true. No, that's true.
Whether they're vegetarian, whether they're pescatarian, but and just rounding it out and giving some options that are not beef or pork for folks, and it honestly it's delicious. It's
really great.
It looks really great. I tell people they should, if they're listening, they should follow you guys on your social media, but on your Instagram and see some of your platters with the salmon on display. It looks beautiful, and it's something like at first I'm like, what is that? Wait a second there.
It's beautiful. I mean, when it comes out, it's just that sort of lacquered, red.
Yeah, we have a glaze we put on top before we throw it in the smoker, so it gets a nice sweet lacquered kind of shellac on it, so it's really nice.
And it gives people a reason to come to you guys multiple times in a week too.
That's true. We want to have a really diverse menu, both on the sides. We've got a lot of unique sandwiches that really non-traditional for a barbecue place, and just have enough variety. Wilson Gurley, he's our chef here, is just phenomenal with vegetables. So we have a Wilson salad of the day on the menu, and he just finds whatever is fresh and local, and whip the salad up for the day, and to really treat the entire menu with the same care that we treat the protein.
And then how many sides do you guys have?
Oh gosh, let's see, potato salad. We do a smoked pork belly. Yeah, the smort.
It's a new thing you guys created.
Pork belly fried rice. We got beans, slaw, mac and cheese, cream corn, and things sort of rotate in and out. Brunswick stew. The other thing that we try to do with the sides is, Atlanta is a really diverse place, and so we try to bring in a lot of other influences, non-barbecue influences, into some of the sides. So the cream corn is sort of a Mexican style.
The esquite, I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is delicious.
The pork belly fried rice, which is actually really delicious and unexpected. So things like that, where we try to bring in some other elements, to the barbecue and just round it out.
Well, and also to make it your own, as opposed to being just something else, or just like when you order meats, can you say I want the fatty, or a certain part of the hog?
You can definitely do that with the brisket. You could get lean or fatty. The hog we kind of just mix together and just chop it all up.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, but if someone wants lean meat or fatty meat on a brisket, we'll give it to them.
Okay.
Yeah, all they gotta do is ask.
Right.
Sure.
The default is a mix of the two.
Yeah.
Makes sense. With a restaurant like yours, I didn't know if that was an option. Some restaurants I've gone to, I've asked, and they've just seemed like they're confused or they don't want to offer that.
We try to make everybody happy.
Aim to please.
Yeah.
And then what desserts do you guys have?
Actually, our desserts, it's all pies. We've got a pound cake, but it's pretty much pie. So we have a great pastry chef over at the General Muir, and so she's sort of doing all of our pies now.
Nice.
We'll generally have 3 or 4 at a time. A banana pudding pie. The coconut custard pie is really popular, and then whatever's in season. We'll have a peach pie in the summer, pecan pie when it's appropriate, different fruit pies. So that's sort of our dessert program is pie.
Pie. That's great. No, that's nice, and it also doesn't complicate things, I think. And also you have the banana pudding, but it's in a pie form. It makes
right.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't not have banana pudding. So
you have to have that. No, I think it's.
You got to figure out how to make it a pie.
Yeah. There's certain people on Instagram that's all they post is banana pudding. Seems
Yeah.
like. No, so are you guys enjoying it? Is it fun?
It's been great.
This is a blast. Yeah. I mean, I get to do what I love every day and do it the right way. So it's perfect.
And I have to say, and it sounds sort of self-interested, but the vibe here is great. It's a fun restaurant, and I like all our restaurants, like I like all my children. Yeah. But it has a different feel. It's a fun place to be. It's got space. It's got games. It's got that smoke. Outside we've got sort of our upper patio with the tables, and we've got a gravel patio and Adirondack chairs and cornhole that's right in front of the smokehouse.
That's
so
cool.
You get a great view of the smokehouse. You get the smokes coming out of there. People are hanging out. It's just a very relaxed, happy, fun feel to it that I guess somewhat intentional, but you never know how things go.
No, that's your goal, but yeah, it doesn't always.
Right, that's certainly the goal, but it's been great, and the reception's been great. The neighbors have really embraced us. We just get lots of fans of our other restaurants who are coming here and just will pull us aside elsewhere and just rave about it, and it's also bringing people to a part of town that they otherwise hadn't thought to come to.
Now, if someone was coming into town and for business and they were flying into Atlanta, how long would it take them to get to where you're going via Uber or whatever?
Atlanta's probably a lot like LA, and that depends on where your business is. If you're in Buckhead, it'll take you a little while to get down here.
Yeah.
But if you're downtown, if someone's coming in for like a convention, which we have a lot of conventions here, a sporting event, we are super close to downtown. If you're staying at a hotel downtown, you can be here in 5 minutes. Easily. It's super.
That's not bad at all.
And it's actually on the way to the airport too, so you can hit us up on the way. And,
that's good.
And you're halfway to the airport already.
If only you could serve barbecue while you're taxiing around your airport. That would be nice.
If the airport wants to have us do it.
No, but I'm talking like I've flown through. I used to fly to North Carolina a lot for business. I would for the High Point Furniture Market, and we'd always stop in. I think it was Delta, so we'd always stop in Atlanta. And if I had a connecting flight, it had to be an hour and a half different. I had to make it long enough because I've run through the Atlanta airport more times than I can imagine.
It's kind of spread out, so you can. You need to leave some room.
It's a big place, yeah. But it's also a big hub, and Atlanta's such a great city.
I love it.
Yeah.
And that's nice, and you guys are a nice addition to it. I'm really happy for you. I'm excited to come visit you. I'm really excited, and I hope that people, by listening to this, understand more about you guys and want to visit.
Well, come on down. Let us know when you're coming. We'll happy to host you.
I'll let you know for sure.
You can do a live podcast from here.
Well, thank you guys so much, and Craig, it's nice to meet you officially.
Absolutely. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Well, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
I appreciate it, and I can't wait, and I wish you so much success.